you not? I thought you were connected.
No,
You're not a made man?
Not really, no. Try not to be.
Can't you get one of those sopranos to pay him a visit? Eh?
A veteran actor in Hollywood, Robert De Niro is recognized for his outstanding film career, which spans over 60 years and includes more than 100 films. He has worked tirelessly throughout his career. Since the beginning of his career, Robert De Niro has maintained a reputation for having a difficult attitude both on and off screen. Additionally, he has never disclosed any information about his personal life to the public. Now that he is 80 years old, the tragic secrets that he has always shielded from public view have come to light. If what you think of him is considerably different from what you actually think of him, then you are in need of our assistance. All right, let's hop on the bus and embark on a journey into recollection, where the history of Robert will be brought to light on the screen. Beginnings of Robert's life. Robert Anthony De Niro, Jr. was born on August 17, 1943, in the immediate vicinity of New York City. He spent his childhood in the Greenwich Village district. It would appear that creativity has always been a part of the De Niro family, as both of his parents, Virginia and Robert De Niro Sr., were great artists to begin with. The realm of performing and the arts was something that De Niro was interested in from a very young age. It was in a school play that he made his debut on stage for the very first time when he was only 10 years old. Since he was determined to pursue a career in acting, he decided to drop out of high school in order to pursue his goals. Within a short period of time, he was acting in theaters located all throughout the city. On the other hand, his route to the was not quite a smooth operation. Although his first film role was in a low-budget comedy called The Wedding Party, the picture would not be released until 1969. His first film role was really in the film. Before that, in 1965, he was cast in a French comedy called 3 Rooms in Manhattan, which marked the beginning of his voyage on the big screen. He went on to have a successful television career. Mean Streets, which was directed by Martin Scorsese and released in 1973, was the film that brought him his big break. In addition, that film marked the beginning of his work with Scorsese, which ultimately resulted in the production of the most recent film, Killers of the Flower Moon, in which Leonardo DiCaprio, another outstanding actor, is featured. The experience of working beside Leonardo DiCaprio, in which he was able to observe De Niro's passion and professionalism up close, was one of the most formative experiences that Leonardo DiCaprio has ever had. His characters are taken far too seriously by him. The dedication that Robert De Niro shows to each of his performances is nothing short of astounding. Consider, for example, the sequel to The Godfather. During the time when the cameras were rolling in other locations, Robert De Niro traveled to Sicily in order to become part of the local culture and to study the language, because he became so skilled at it. He even assisted in rewriting the Sicilian dialect that was used in the film in order to give it a more realistic feel. Moreover, it is not all. He genuinely learned how to play the saxophone for the film New York, New York, despite the fact that the music was dubbed in the final version of the film. Furthermore, when it came to the film Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro went above and beyond by obtaining a genuine license to operate a taxi for himself. And let's not overlook the fact that Raging Bull exists. This caused him to put on approximately 60 pounds, which caused the production to be halted for several months. Subsequently, he acknowledged that it was quite a struggle, as he had direct experience with the difficulties associated with carrying excess weight. And in the case of Cape Fear, he even went to the extent of going to the dentist in order to mess up his teeth, for the purpose of having them corrected when the filming was finished. Acting was not the only thing that De Niro was passionate about. He also enjoyed performing on screen. Following the sad events of September 11th, he also took on tasks behind the scenes and was instrumental in the establishment of the Tribeca Film Festival in the year 2002. As someone who had faith in the curative potential of films, he had the desire to revitalize the Lower Manhattan neighborhood through the enchantment of the film industry. As time has progressed, the festival has developed into a thriving platform for independent filmmakers, showing a wide variety of compelling films that provoke thought. It has been reported that Robert De Niro may be a bit difficult to collaborate with, despite the fact that he is extremely dedicated to his job. On the other hand, He dismissed the accusations in an interview that took place in 2008, stating, "Compared to other people, I don't think I'm all that difficult." As he pointed out, the process of making movies is already challenging enough. There is therefore no reason to make it more difficult for anyone. It was acknowledged by him that everyone has their own agenda. On the other hand, bringing personal baggage onto a film set is a waste of time. How come he chooses to avoid interviews? Although it may not always be challenging to work with De Niro, his rise to stardom has not been without its share of challenging moments, particularly when it comes to dealing with the journalistic community. Representing himself in front of the media in the early days of his career was like venturing into uncharted land for him. Rather than expressing himself through interviews and spotlight situations, he is more of a private person who finds comfort in expressing himself through his profession. Vanity Fair came knocking on the door in 1987, and Robert De Niro was not exactly keen to share the beans about his life story. He questioned the significance of talking about insignificant matters such as the school he attended and the hobbies he enjoyed, and he wondered what any of those things had to do with acting or his own views. During the course of his rise to fame, he made it a point to establish a wall between himself and the intrusive inquiries, and he discovered that maintaining a sense of seclusion brought him comfort. Over the course of time, Robert De Niro did begin to open up a little bit more in interviews. Nonetheless, he was careful to keep the majority of the conversation centered on his profession. Evidently, he was able to establish his limits at an early age. Take, for example, his meeting with Barbara Goldsmith, a writer for Parade, in the year 1984. Later, when he had finished his conversation with her, he called her to make sure she was aware of the subjects that were off-limits. However, after the publication of the story, he found himself feeling guilt over the entire interaction. According to Sean Levy's biography, De Niro: A Life, the actor's professional interviews were not always a smooth sailing experience for him. Because the media frenzy that surrounded New York became so excessive, Robert De Niro decided to take a vacation from giving interviews for a full 4 years following the event. Despite the fact that he made an attempt to give himself some privacy, controversies nonetheless managed to find their way to him. Recently, however, Robert De Niro found himself in the middle of a widely publicized civil trial, which constitutes possibly one of the most peculiar chapters in his life. Graham Chase Robinson, who had previously worked closely with Robert De Niro and was his former assistant and vice president of his company, filed a lawsuit alleging that he had violated his rights. As a result of all the stress and harm to her reputation, she demanded a staggering $12 million from him, claiming that he was a demanding boss. Nevertheless, De Niro responded by filing a lawsuit of his own, in which he demanded $6 million from Robinson. How come? First of all, he stated that she had been using company funds to pay for her own meals and travel expenses. In addition to this, he asserted that Robinson was spending an excessive amount of time addicted to Netflix during his work hours. What was it that caused him to yell in the courtroom? Inside that courtroom, things were very heated. People who were covering the trial reported that De Niro was absolutely enraged by the proceedings. He was yelling, irritable, and obviously exhausted by the situation. To put it another way, the situation became so tense that the judge had to intervene and bring everyone back under control. In point of fact, there were some very extravagant charges that were hurled around. It has been reported that Robert De Niro requested that his assistant scratch his back. It is stated that he responded to her suggestion by saying, "I like the way you do it," when she proposed using a back scratcher instead. De Niro claims that he may have inquired once or twice, but he adamantly asserts that he never intended to be impolite in any manner. De Niro's decision to yell, "Shame on you," across a courtroom in New York was sparked by this particular claim. He was then required to provide an apology to the judge. In addition, she asserted that De Niro called her not once, but twice, while she was attending the burial of her grandmother, solely for the purpose of requesting that she purchase a bus ticket for his son, who was a teenager at the time. Upon being questioned about it, De Niro gave an answer that was rather unexpected. Just now, he made that statement. In addition, Robinson stated that De Niro anticipated that she would always be available to answer his calls. Even more than that, He desired for her to tend to his clothing and adorn his Christmas tree. However, De Niro defended himself in court when he was accused of the crime. As far as he was concerned, he merely requested that she carry out tasks that were reasonable and a part of her profession. Moreover, he stated that it is not as if I am instructing her to go out and scrape the floors. There is no truth to any of this. He is incapable of putting up with rubbish. As a result of this trial, we are getting a glimpse of the irritable side of Robert De Niro. But you know what? On the Hollywood scene, he has always been known to be a bit of a grumpy old man. During the course of 60 years, he has established a reputation for himself as a harsh individual, a solitary individual who does not take fools lightly. Whether it's a politician or a reporter, Robert De Niro isn't hesitant to let people know if they're being silly or confused. He does this regardless of the situation. When Robert De Niro left an interview with Radio Times in 2015 because he did not like the questions that were being asked, it caused quite a significant amount of controversy. He went so far as to request that she cease recording. Then he stood up and began walking around. Emma Brockus, the person who conducted the interview, indicated later that she felt sorry for Robert De Niro, who appeared to be a little irritable and exhausted after a long day of interviews. Yet, she was not overly happy with his unpleasant attitude. Then, at a particular occasion, he had some harsh words for the executives of Flickr and Slack as they were attending an awards event. One of the most prominent figures in the field of technology, Stuart Butterfield, made a comment regarding Robert De Niro's film, Godfather 2, and he believed that he was joking about it. Nevertheless, De Niro did not find it funny in the least. As soon as it was his turn to speak, he did not hold back in his words. To put it simply, he told the individual that he was being rude to performers who were similar to him. All of this, along with De Niro's tendency to keep to himself, his tendency to become easily irritated during interviews, and his lack of fear in expressing his thoughts, has caused him to become rather irritable. However, this issue has also been a source of difficulties for him. There was a pipe bomb that was aimed at him. The month of October 2018 saw the occurrence of a significant event. De Niro, you see, did not shy away from voicing his opposition to Donald Trump, who was serving as president at the time. This resulted in him being a target for the attacker. There was a pipe bomb that was actually sent to his workplace. Contemplating it is a terrifying experience. On the other hand, we are fortunate that the authorities were able to discover it before anyone was hurt. On the other hand, De Niro was not the only person who was targeted. A number of other notable individuals, including Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton, were also recipients of packages received. The individual who was responsible for everything was apprehended and sentenced to a lengthy prison sentence. However, it must have been a scary experience for them. Even though he was terrified, Robert De Niro did not back down. He invoked the event in order to bring to everyone's attention the significance of their vote. According to what he claimed, there is something more powerful than explosives. The vote is yours. By the way, voting is required of the people. When you delve past the harsh exterior that Robert De Niro possesses, you will discover that he also has a more sensitive side. He possesses a whole different aspect of himself that is concerned with his family and his emotions. Consider his father, Robert De Niro Sr., when we talk about him. He was a well-known artist, but he passed suddenly in 1993, leaving behind a legacy that his son, Robert De Niro, wished to continue to carry on. Therefore, as a way to pay honor to his father, he made a film about his life and the job that he did. Remembering the artist Robert De Niro Sr. is the name of this initiative. In addition, even after all these years have passed since his father passed away, Robert De Niro has not altered the appearance of his father's art studio in any way. He describes it as being similar to preserving a piece of his father's soul. Between them, however, things were not always simple. According to him, they never truly engaged in those heart-to-heart conversations about art or anything else of a profound kind. When he was a child, his parents divorced, and as he grew older, he became aware of the extent to which his father cared for him and acknowledged the challenges that he was facing. Nevertheless, there were things that were not discussed, things that he wished they had discussed. He had a troubled romantic life. Let's move on to discussing the challenges that Robert De Niro has faced in his personal life. Around the year 1976, he tied the knot with a gifted actress by the name of Diane Abbott. The couple had been married for a total of 12 years and had a son named Raphael. In addition, Robert became a father figure to Diane's daughter, Drina, who was born from a previous marriage. In 1988, they made the unfortunate decision to separate ways. Following that, in the year 1995, Robert and his fiancée, Tookie Smith, became parents to identical twin sons named Julian and Aaron through a process known as in vitro fertilization. Despite the fact that they had been together since the 1980s, they decided to go their own ways in 1996 because things did not work out according to their expectations. But love found its way back to Robert. In the year that followed, he tied the knot with Grace Hightower, who had previously worked as a flight attendant and as a model. They have a son named Elliot and a daughter named Helen Grace. Both of them are their children. However, their voyage was not without its share of challenges. They went through their ups and downs, splitting up and getting back together on multiple occasions. As we fast forward to November 2018, Robert De Niro made the announcement that his second marriage, which had lasted for more than 20 years, had successfully ended. De Niro noted in a note that he gave to the media that this transition is difficult but necessary for both of them by saying that it is necessary. He lauded Grace for being an outstanding mother and requested that everyone allow them some space and respect at this time as they work together to figure out what is going on. On the other hand, it appears that things evolved into a more difficult state during their breakup. Caroline Krauss, who represents Robert De Niro, stated in court that in order to provide for Grace financially, he was forced to accept jobs that he did not particularly enjoy because of the circumstances. How would you feel if you had to put in lengthy hours just to keep up with your expenses? It was even remarked by Krauss that it is essential for Robert De Niro to take care of himself since you never know what can occur the next day. 21 years later, in the year 2021, the divorce was finally finalized. They remained true to their prenuptial agreement, which meant that Grace received $6 million to help her find a new place to live. In addition, she received 50% of the proceeds from the sale of their $20 million mansion. In addition to that, De Niro made a commitment to pay her $1 million annually. Doesn't that amount of money seem like a lot? But wait, there's even more melancholy in the life of Robert De Niro. His grandson's passing away. A year ago, he was forced to go through yet another challenging period. Leandro De Niro Rodriguez, his grandson, passed away upon his passing. The actor, who was 79 years old at the time, issued a statement in which he conveyed his profound sorrow and said how much he misses his beloved grandson Leo Rodriguez, who was only 19 years old when he passed away, was the son of Robert De Niro's daughter, Drina De Niro, and Carlos Rodriguez during the time of his passing. Following the revelation that a combination of many medicines was the cause of her son's death, Drina took a stand in support of her deceased son. She took to social media and stated, "I see many people blaming my son for his drug use, blaming me as his mother for my pain and anger at losing my only child, and even blaming his grandfather as if he had control over the borders of the United States. However, pointing fingers won't solve things." She continued to talk about the difficulties that Leo underwent during the epidemic and how addiction tragically seized control of his life. Before assaulting others online, she asked people to take into consideration the emotional toll that their comments could have on them. Even now, at the age of 80, Robert De Niro's heart continues to ache from the terrible loss. "I never imagined that it would take place," he says, admitting that he is in a state of profound shock. Even though he has achieved a great deal of success and celebrity, he is just like any other grandfather who cannot handle the idea of losing a loved one in such a manner. De Niro, as he considers everything that has transpired, wonders whether there was anything further that he could have done for his grandchild. His mind is always going back to the possibilities of what could have been, and he wonders whether there is anything that could have altered the outcome. It is a weight that is difficult for anyone to bear, but it is extremely difficult for someone as well-liked as Robert De Niro. A young woman named Sophia Marks, who is suspected of being a drug dealer connected to Leo's death, was taken into custody by the authorities some weeks after Leo's overdose. In light of the allegations, Sophia Marks may be subject to a sentence of up to 20 years in jail for her involvement. The absence of Leo continues to weigh heavily on the entire family, and they are all holding out hope that justice will ultimately be served. The journey that they are taking together to find resolution and tranquility is a challenging one. Despite the fact that he had experienced enough misery to last a lifetime by the time he was 80 years old, Robert De Niro suddenly discovered a glimpse of joy. In May of 2023, he revealed that he had once again become a father. This time at the ripe old age of 79. This made him one of the oldest fathers in the Hollywood industry. The statement was made during an interview with ET Canada, in which he was asked about the experience of being a father to 6 children during the course of the discussion. On the contrary, he informed them that he truly possesses 7. At the time that De Niro broke the news to his friends, it had been around 1 month since the arrival of the baby girl, who was named Gia Virginia Chen De Niro and was the daughter of his best friend Tiffany Chen, due to the fact that De Niro has always been so careful to keep his personal life secret. Even in this particular instance, it came as a complete surprise to everyone, including his closest friends. You could be thinking, isn't he getting a little bit old for all of this? According to De Niro, this is not the case. He is enjoying every moment of his life as a father who is 80 years old. Even more shockingly, he said that the pregnancy was premeditated. However, when De Niro continued to talk about his newborn child, he couldn't help but become emotional. Over the course of an interview, he expressed his deepest feelings, stating that once he looks at her, all of his concerns simply vanish. After a little pause, during which he appeared to be overcome with emotion, he continued by saying, "It is wondrous. When she looks at you, she does so in a really nice and subtle way, as if she is simply taking you in." Now that he is a father once more, he may be experiencing a sense of joy, yet it is not a simple task to take care of a newborn at this stage of life. He is not the one who is doing all of the heavy lifting, according to De Niro. He is a supporter of his girlfriend, but she is the true hero because she is the one who is doing the majority of the work. One of the things that he believes to be a blessing is the fact that they have some fantastic assistants. Will he be retiring in the near future? In spite of the fact that he is at an age when many people are contemplating retirement, Robert De Niro is still going strong. In addition to being a father, he is also a very busy man who has a lot of things on his plate. The fact that he is so busy with the operation of his restaurants, including the well-known Nobu sushi chain, suggests that the concept of retirement is not somewhere in his lexicon. "I have always been passionate about movies," he added with a smile on his face. "I simply cannot get enough of acting, directing, or producing. I just can't get enough of it. In addition, I have a great deal of additional projects in the works." Robert De Niro has shown that he is resilient in spite of the difficulties he has encountered, which include a difficult divorce, regrets over his relationship with his father, and the tragic loss of his grandchild. The actor responded that he was not prepared to retire when he was asked about it. He stated that the reward he received was his performing career throughout his life. At the moment, De Niro is working on the production of the thriller series 0 Day. This project, which consists of 6 episodes, was also produced by the artist, who also served as the executive producer. He is a true example of what it means to be a role model because of his resilience in the face of hardship, his dedication to his work, and his determination to make a difference via his work with charitable organizations. This is something that will be remembered long after the credits have rolled, and his talent to bring characters to life on screen is something that will be remembered. Among the roles that Robert De Niro has played, which one is your favorite? Please let us know in the comments box below. And don't forget to click the subscribe button so that you can receive notifications about future video updates.